Boy, this is the worst job ever, removing a mower deck from a B2650. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, give me one. Give me a like too if you'd like this type of content. It helps the channel grow, and I'll continue to make videos such as this. So today we're trailblazing, I guess you would call it. I'm hooking up the box blade. Just saw me remove the mower deck, and I'm going to hit the trails. I'm going to scrape them off, clean them up a little bit, and then I'm going to finish them off with a nice coat of mulch. I have about a third of a mile of trails that cut through the back property of my woods. They start on the east side, or I guess the south side of the trail, and it works its way around to the east side and finishes up on the north side. It's not a complete circle. It goes one side of the property to the other side. So if you go to the other side and back, then it's about a third of a mile, which includes a little turnaround too. So you'll see the trail here in a minute. I cut these a couple of years ago, I think, or maybe 3 years now. Cutting trails you haven't done before kind of sucks, especially in areas that have never been cut before. But once you get them cut, they're pretty easy to maintain for the most part. Now, when I originally built the trails, I just thought, what was the easiest, least resistance area through the woods, which is what you're looking at now. I wish I would have been a little bit wider and closer to the property line. I am off the property line, probably a good, to my right, the creek and the property line is probably a good 40 or 50 feet. I do have a 15-foot easement down through there though, so I wanted to stay off that. But you can see the trails aren't in too bad a shape. This is really the first time on them. If you've seen recent videos this year, some of my firewood videos, you won't even recognize the trails at this point, or even the woods. In the wintertime, there's very little vegetation, if any at all. And you pretty much can see the house from all parts of the woods. And now at this stage of the game, with all the vegetation, it's hard to see the house anywhere in the woods. What I'm going to do is clean up these trails, get this vegetation off the middle of them. That way they're still walkable and maintainable. You can see I've got some trees that are in bad shape, and the reason why you see me looking around so much and pointing is I'm trying to make a mental note that those trees are the ones that I need to take in the winter. And normally what I do towards the end of summer is I'll get out with a can of spray paint and I'll mark the trees with red X, the dead ones, standing dead ones, because in the wintertime you don't know if they're dead or alive. I kind of remember which ones are and which ones aren't, but to double check, I just make sure I just put red paint on them, or white paint, whatever paint I can find, and I mark them. That way I can harvest them in the winter when it's ideal to do firewood. So I just got a good look at the trail. I know what I got to work with. So then what I do is I drop the box blade down in the ground. I am not using the forks. I can't remember the name of those forks. There's a certain name for those. I'm not using those at all. I'm using the back blade. There's a blade on the inside and there's a blade on the outside. All I'm trying to do is scrape the top, mainly getting the vegetation out of it. In the process, I'm getting pretty decent topsoil too, because last year I did the same thing I'm doing this year, is where I scraped the top and then eventually laid down mulch on top of it. Well, all that mulch is now decayed, and it's now pretty nice topsoil. So I scrape off a thin layer of dirt along with all the vegetation with the box blade. I'll make 2 or 3 passes. I think I make 3 passes here. It's a tad bit wet, but nothing major, and that cleans up the trail real nice. Now the trail's about just around 5 feet. The box blade's 5 feet wide, so 60 inches. The tractor's like 56 inches, so the box blade's purposely a couple inches bigger on both sides. So it makes a nice clean path. I used to use the box blade for the driveway. I had a gravel driveway about a year and a half ago, and I used that box blade to level up my driveway, and it did great for that, for sure. It does better in dirt. I really like the way it uses it. I use it in dirt. It's almost like a bulldozer. It doesn't move a ton of dirt, but it gets the job done, and it's inexpensive, and it's not hard on the tractor either. The tractor seems to handle it pretty well. I've got the first pass done here. Like I said, I do several passes here to get this cleaned up. You'll see as I go on. I'll give you a back view of this and let you know what it looks like coming out of the back of the tractor. But you can see how well this box blade really cleans up the path. I do have a little bit of dirt here and there, and I usually stack those up in corners. I use that dirt in other places. You can see the box blade just clearly just scraping off the top. Now you see it's not collecting a lot of dirt at this point, and that's perfectly fine. That dirt's kind of filled in that box, and it's kind of just skating above the trail. scraping all the weeds off. So really, I don't want a ton of dirt here. It's when I better clean it up a little bit, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, if I really wanted to get dirt, then I'd drop those forks back there, and that would probably overfill the box pretty quickly because it's pretty soft ground. But for the most part, the tractor and the box blade are doing exactly what I wanted to do. Now, I do have plans to make these trails a little bit bigger. If you saw my one video, I'll put a link in the description up here or up at the top of here. And I did a swale, and I want to tie the trail into the swale system. It'll be a little low, but everything drains pretty good back here. I mean, it gets wet at times, but for the most part, I want to expand the trail a little bit. I'd like to at least get maybe a half-mile trail would be nice. I think I can do it. I think I can do a couple things on the property with the trails, but honestly, it's almost better to do the trails in the late fall or early spring. Now, early spring it's usually a little muddy and watery. It's not real easy to work with the dirt. But maybe in the fall, when the leaves start dropping, it's a good time to really cut trails because you can kind of see what you're working with. Right now, if I tried to cut a trail, it'd be hard to see where I wanted to go and which was the easiest way to go without resistance from trees and vegetation. So maybe this fall I'll cut some more trails back in here. I definitely need a trail out to the front here. I am at a smokehouse, but I like to come out to the front of the property to avoid using the side yard. That might be something I need to do here real soon because I am wearing out that side yard with the tractor movement. You've recently seen me plant the grass over there. I really don't want to be driving on that grass as much as I do now. So definitely something I want to do probably sooner than later. You can see now I'm just going in reverse. I'm using the back blade. So like I said, there's two blades on this box blade. There's one on the back and there's one in the front. So I'm using the one on the back just to make sure I catch anything. I didn't catch anything. I can catch it with the back blade, different type of angle. So just clean it off the rest of the way and make it look real nice. You can see the quality of the dirt here. That's that dark brown color. It's good topsoil. It's not real wet. It's just good, solid topsoil. That's from the leaves and the sticks over the years breaking down and making it really a rich soil. Great stuff for gardens and planting trees actually and put bushes. Like I said, I'm just finishing up. It's my last pass. Now you're gonna see here in a minute, I've got a buddy that cuts down trees, and he happened to cut down some trees at my brother and I. We have an apartment complex, a small one, older buildings of 1890, I think, building. My brother and I basically redid the entire thing, and we had people living there. And we had some trees removed that were hanging over the top of it. So it's right down the street from me, about a mile. I'll do a video on that someday with my brother. It's a pretty cool project. But long story short is they cut down 3 or 4 big elm trees, some on our property, some on the neighbor's property, and they always have wood chips from the branches, right? So they have the logs from the tree trunks, then they have tons of branches with leaves and all that stuff. So here I am getting ready to get a scoop of this stuff. They dropped a dump load off, and they said I could have as much as I want. I mean, I got a whole truck full. I could have got more if I wanted it, but so every year I usually call him up and say, hey, I need a truck of mulch, and he just delivers this stuff whenever he's in the area for free. Nobody wants it. It's not something you want to put around your house. It's some nasty stuff. Actually, I did put it around my house when I first moved in just to give me a base of something, and then I topped it with good quality black hardwood mulch. But this stuff is great for trails. So if you know a guy that does tree trimming, and he'll give this stuff to you. They don't have anywhere to put it. I mean, they just want to get rid of it. And if they're in the area, it's perfect for them because what they'll do is just dump it and keep dumping it and getting rid of it with very little fuel cost to get rid of it. So if you don't know somebody, keep an eye out for guys trimming trees. Look for those trucks that are chipping branches into the backup. That's what you want. You want to grab one of those trucks. And like I said, this stuff, it goes down great. It's just big chunks. It's not ideal mulch. It's not dyed or anything like that. Obviously, it's just real raw and it's real green. But the nice thing is this stuff is really warm. Like, the pile's been sitting here a couple days and I'm pulling smoke off this pile. It's hot. And even when it goes down on the ground, you can see the smoke coming out of it or the steam coming out of it. And what the guy told me, my tree guy told me, was basically when you put the stuff down while it's hot, it kills the weeds that are on the path and then some. It'll keep them from coming up. Like I said, it lasts about a year, so next year at this time, you won't even see the wood chips for the most part. If you did, I'll just scrape them up, lay more wood chips down, and be done with it. It also gives you a really good base to walk on. It's soft. Seems like the wildlife doesn't really like it too much. I don't ever see wildlife on it. but it gives you a nice soft base, and it also keeps the path dry. Like I said, sometimes it gets wet on those paths, especially if there's just bare dirt. By laying the mulch on top, even if it was wet or muddy, the mulch is kind of going to bridge you over the top of it, so it's a good thing. Now you just saw that bump I ran over right there at the place where I turned around at. So that is a swale that I need to work on. I think I've mentioned it in other videos. I need to work on that. I'd love to get to it this year. I do have a sub pump pipe that runs down deeper underneath there. It's probably a good foot, 2 foot down, so I'm not going to get into it. But that's why that even swale is even there in the first place, and I just cut it in a little bit more to get some water out of the area. That's something, future project I'll do on video too. We'll cut that swale and make sure we get good flow. Right now we don't get great flow through there. I need to clean that up, and that swale area actually leads to my lumber or my wood processing yard, I guess you would call it, or wherever I do my firewood at. So I definitely need to cut that and make sure water drains out of that area a little bit better. I'm just using the front end loader to spread this. What I'm doing, I'm getting, obviously you see on film, I'm getting a scoop of mulch as much as possible, and then I'm simply raising the bucket about 6 feet in the air. I'm just moving the joystick back and forth rapidly to just give me a little fine coating of mulch on the trail. It's not hard to do. The hardest part about this whole job is the drive time to get there and back. So obviously my bucket only holds so much, so I have to usually back up, turn around, and get back to the pile and drive a ways and pick up a pile, and then and do the same thing again, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which is fine. It's better than wheelbarrow it by now. So I mean, and it's, you just take your time with it. Stuff's got a really strong smell to it, because it is fairly new. I mean, it just got cut down yesterday, and it's steaming, so you can smell it in the air. It's a unique smell. I mean, it's almost like a real deep woodsy type smell, which is good. Usually I wear a hat out here for the reason, ticks and bugs and everything else, but got the earmuffs on now to keep the noise down. I always want to try and protect the ears whenever you use that tractor. I try as much as possible. Real quick, I make a detour here. I cut through the yard. I realize the yard's a little too wet. I won't do that again. This is where I want to use some mulch in my wood processing area. It's kind of a mess right now. We've got wood from this spring actually, and I just picked up some apple wood. And problem is I didn't get it all split, so I got a bunch of logs sitting around waiting to be split. So unfortunately, when the weather cools down, maybe when it gets into the upper 70s, I'll fire up the wood splitter and see if I can get all that split up real quick. My buddy Dave wanted to do more firewood, and we just stopped all of a sudden. It got too hot, so now I got all this stuff sitting around. It's making a mess. So my goal is to, next cool day or days, knock out all that firewood, get it stacked up, and then I'm going to leave some of this mulch behind. And I'm going to go ahead and use this mulch in the wood yard. That way, it'll keep that nice and dry in the winter months. If you've seen my previous videos, like I've said so many times, this video it was pretty muddy there a couple times this spring. So it's a low area, and like I said, if I cut that swale through and I lay some mulch in that area, it'll be a great place to work. But right now, we can definitely do better. So I've got the one coat on, which is a pretty heavy coat. Now I'm just going back and just dusting another coat on top of it. There's a couple thin areas I'm just looking for, and I'm just giving it wherever it needs it. I've got plenty of it, so why not spread as much as possible? I wouldn't mind getting another truckload of this stuff if I had a place to put it, but I don't have a lot of places, and I'm still trying to figure out the firewood area, if that's the right place for that or not, or if it is, I may have to make it bigger. If I can make it bigger and I can get a good area for this guy to dump wood chips, I wouldn't mind having a huge stack of these at all times. I used them out front there, right where the tree line hits the front yard. I used the mulch in there around those trees, and it's lasted, I think, 3 years now, I think. It probably needs another coat. Like I said, it's not the prettiest stuff in the world, but for those types of areas and these trails, it's ideal. Get a hookup, man. Look for those trucks, man. I'm telling you, they'll want to give it to you in a heartbeat. And they'll give you wood, too. I mean, he offered all the elm trees to me for firewood, and I declined it. I don't want that sitting around right now. So unfortunately, I passed on those logs. I know I can get them anytime from the guy, but for the most part, I'm happy with what we're doing here right now with the trail, and I really don't want to process firewood in the middle of July in Indiana. Well, like I said, I about got this. Obviously, I'm checking my phone, text messages and whatnot. About got this cleaned up real nice. You can see how nice and neat the trails are. Now hopefully the wife and my daughter, I'll let my son-in-law go back here. Hopefully that's why they put them up in the first place, is for them to walk on them, and they never walk on them. But regardless, the trails are there in case they do. I'll get the wife out there one night with a glass of wine. I'm not sure if you noticed it or not. If you've been following the channel, the trampoline is gone. I got rid of it on Facebook Marketplace in a matter of minutes. Because I said it was free, come get it, and I had a guy rip it down and take it within the day. So it's long gone, and it really cleaned that area up real nice. That's about it. I'm going to work my way back to the house now, and I'm going to park this tractor, and pretty much wraps up the trailblazing video. Hope you liked it. Make sure you subscribe and like.
That's a wrap. If you like these types of videos, give it a like. Make sure you subscribe. Please share with family and friends. And like I always say, I appreciate you spending time with the Home Pro Hero.